Hey everyone, Adam Khalifa here. Today we're diving into a crucial topic, the specter of a third world war. It's a chilling thought, conjuring images of global devastation and unimaginable suffering. The potential for large-scale conflict hasn't vanished from our world. Several volatile situations are simmering on the global stage, any one of which could ignite a firestorm. In this video, we'll examine 5 potential flashpoints that could drag the world into an unprecedented conflict. We'll look at the historical context, key players, and alliances that could transform a regional crisis into a global catastrophe. This isn't about fear-mongering, but understanding the real dangers we face in the 21st century. Recognizing these threats and engaging in thoughtful discussion is the first step towards preventing them from becoming our reality.
Our first stop is the East China Sea, the narrow strait separating mainland China from Taiwan. This strait is seen as a likely flashpoint for a conflict between the United States and China. The tension dates back to the Chinese Civil War, which ended in 1949 with the Communist victory and the nationalist retreat to Taiwan. China views Taiwan as a breakaway province, while Taiwan has developed its own identity and democratic government. The U.S. has pledged to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself, a policy known as strategic ambiguity. Recently, Beijing has grown increasingly assertive, carrying out military exercises near Taiwan. Imagine a Chinese naval blockade of Taiwan, with the U.S. deploying its own naval forces to the region. Miscalculations or misunderstandings could escalate this standoff into a full-blown conflict, drawing in allies and engulfing the region in war. Taiwan, with a population of over 23 million, would bear the brunt of the initial assault. Any conflict involving the US and China carries the terrifying possibility of nuclear escalation.
Our second scenario takes us to Eastern Europe, where the ongoing conflict in Ukraine has raised the specter of a confrontation between Russia and NATO. At the heart of the matter is Ukraine, caught in a geopolitical tug-of-war between Russia and the West, each side vying for influence. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea and backed separatist movements in eastern Ukraine, igniting a conflict that continues to this day with no end in sight. NATO has expanded eastward, admitting former Soviet republics, which Russia views as a direct threat to its sphere of influence and national security. Putin has repeatedly warned against further NATO expansion, threatening military action if Ukraine or Georgia were to join the alliance. The deployment of NATO troops to Eastern Europe has created a climate of deep mistrust and tension. Imagine a border incident in the Baltics, a clash between Russian and NATO troops, escalating into a larger conflict, or a cyber attack wrongly attributed to Moscow, leading to retaliatory measures. NATO, bound by its Article 5 commitment, feels compelled to act, while Russia escalates in kind, mobilizing its forces. What begins as a localized conflict could quickly spiral out of control, drawing in more NATO members and potentially other global powers. The use of tactical nuclear weapons, a horrifying possibility, would have catastrophic consequences for the entire world. The situation is further complicated by the deployment of NATO troops and military equipment to Eastern Europe. This military buildup has heightened the risk of miscalculation, making the situation even more precarious.
Our journey now takes us to the Middle East, a region long synonymous with conflict, instability, and a complex web of historical grievances. At the heart of this volatile region lies Iran, a nation with a long history of animosity towards the United States and its allies, driven by both ideological and geopolitical factors. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran has positioned itself as a bulwark against Western influence, supporting proxy groups and engaging in regional destabilization efforts to expand its influence. One of Iran's primary adversaries is Israel, locked in a seemingly intractable conflict with its Arab neighbors, a conflict that has deep historical roots and modern-day implications. Iran's support for groups like Hezbollah and Hamas has exacerbated tensions, fueling a dangerous arms race and perpetuating cycles of violence. Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons has further heightened anxieties, raising the stakes for all involved and drawing international condemnation. Adding to the complexity is the rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran, often described as a struggle for regional hegemony, with both nations vying for dominance in the Middle East. Imagine an Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, sparking a wider conflict that draws in Saudi Arabia and its Gulf allies, creating a volatile and unpredictable situation. The conflict quickly escalates, with Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point, sending shockwaves through the global economy and disrupting oil supplies. Terrorist attacks, inspired or directed by Iran, target Western interests, making a diplomatic solution seem impossible and further entrenching hostilities. The human cost would be immense, with both Israel and Iran experiencing significant civilian casualties, adding to the already high toll of suffering. The wider region would be plunged into chaos, exacerbating the global migrant crisis and creating a humanitarian disaster of unprecedented proportions.
Our next stop is the Korean Peninsula, divided by ideology and the legacy of a war that never truly ended. Here lies North Korea, a reclusive nation ruled by an enigmatic dictator and armed with a growing arsenal of nuclear weapons. North Korea has been ruled by the Kim dynasty since its founding in 1948. Kim Jong-un now rules the country with an iron fist, maintaining a tight grip on power. Since the Korean War, North Korea has remained technically at war with South Korea and its ally, the United States. The demilitarized zone is a stark reminder of the divisions that persist. North Korea's pursuit of nuclear weapons has been met with international condemnation and sanctions. The Trump administration's maximum pressure campaign did little to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Imagine a North Korean missile test going awry, striking a populated area in South Korea or Japan. The incident triggers swift retaliation, spiraling out of control. North Korea unleashes its conventional forces, pouring artillery fire into Seoul and launching a cyber attack. The United States responds with overwhelming force, raising the specter of a wider regional conflict.
Our final scenario takes us to the digital realm, where cyber warfare can be just as dangerous as bullets and bombs. Cyber warfare involves the use of digital tools to disrupt, degrade, or destroy an adversary's computer systems. It's a form of conflict that knows no borders, targeting everything from critical infrastructure to financial institutions. In recent years, we've seen a dramatic increase in cyber attacks, with nation-states like Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran developing advanced capabilities. These attacks have targeted government agencies, private companies, and political campaigns. The 2016 US presidential election was targeted by Russian intelligence agencies. The NotPetya ransomware attack caused billions of dollars in damage. The SolarWinds hack compromised numerous US government agencies and private companies. Imagine a sophisticated cyber attack crippling the US power grid, plunging major cities into darkness. The attack triggers Article 5 of the NATO treaty, obligating the US and its allies to respond militarily. Miscalculations lead to a tit-for-tat exchange of cyber attacks and counterattacks, escalating into a wider conflict. The world fragments into rival blocs, each armed with powerful cyber weapons, raising the risk of a catastrophic miscalculation.
We've journeyed to some of the most volatile corners of the globe, exploring 5 scenarios that could potentially spark a third world war. These scenarios are not just theoretical. They're grounded in the harsh realities of our current geopolitical landscape. Each of these flashpoints presents its own unique set of dangers, a complex web of historical grievances, geopolitical rivalries, and technological advancements. The stakes are incredibly high, and the potential for escalation is ever present. But amidst these sobering realities, a glimmer of hope remains. There are countless individuals and organizations tirelessly working towards peace, striving to bridge divides and foster understanding. For just as human choices have brought us to the brink, so too can they pull us back from the abyss. The power of diplomacy and the willingness to engage in dialogue cannot be underestimated. The path to averting global catastrophe lies in recognizing the interconnectedness of our world, in embracing diplomacy and dialogue, and in fostering a spirit of cooperation and understanding across borders. It requires a collective effort, a shared commitment to peace. The challenges are immense, the stakes higher than ever. The complexity of modern conflicts demands nuanced solutions and unwavering dedication, but the alternative, a world consumed by conflict, a future shrouded in darkness is simply too horrific to contemplate. The human cost of war is immeasurable, and the consequences would be felt for generations. Let us choose instead to build a future where dialogue trumps division, where cooperation conquers conflict, and where the spectre of war fades into the mists of history. It is within our power to create a more peaceful world. Let us know your thoughts on these scenarios, how we might prevent them, and what other potential conflicts worry you in the comments below. Your voice matters in this global conversation, and as always, don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together for a better future.